We will do this. Okay, welcome to Halloween Hangout. This is our Scorpio edition. We're going to talk about Scorpio and Mercury Retrograde. I'm super, super excited. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and save them for the end. And otherwise, hooray, we're glad that you're here. Okay. Scorpio. What do you know about Scorpio? You are Scorpio if you were born between October the 23rd and November the 22nd. If you're using the kind of astrological system that most people use, in the West, So there are lots of different astrological systems that people use, and they all can be... they're a little bit different, but the one that, most Western astrology people use, October 23rd to November 22nd. So obviously, probably not all of you on here are actually Scorpios, but that is okay because everybody has Scorpio energy. Maybe you have your moon in Scorpio. Maybe you have a rising Scorpio. Maybe you have lots of other random planets in Scorpio. On top of that, Scorpio rules a house, the 8th house, and a planet, which is Pluto. Pluto, Scorpio, the 8th house, they're all tied together. And everybody's natal chart has these different energies. No matter where you were born on the earth, there's Scorpio energy coming into play with your life. And it's a very, very important energy. And so everybody has a Scorpio story, and especially when the sun is transiting Scorpio, which is now. Right now, the sun is in Scorpio. So that's what it means. October 23rd to November 22nd, the sun is in Scorpio. Okay. This is a little piece of somebody's natal chart that I ran today. You can see that tan circle with a dot in it on the right. That is the symbol for the sun. And the little arrow above the sun, you see it's a blue arrow with a cross for it, that is for Sagittarius. And so this person is actually a Sagittarius sun, okay? But that M with a arrow on it, that M with an arrow on it is the scorpion. It is Scorpio. The little arrow there is Scorpio's stinger, the stinger of the scorpion. And so how many planets do we see in Scorpio for this person? We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Scorpio there at the bottom on the outer wheel of the circle, that means it's flowing into the energy where her sun is, okay? So she's a Sagittarius, but she has a ton of Scorpio energy, tons and tons of Scorpio energy. And so even though her sun sign would say one thing, her actual life looks really Scorpio. She has a Scorpio influence on her sun, and here from the order from left to right, everything with the M on top of it, we have Pallas Athena, her Hermione Granger thinky smarty pants is in Scorpio. Her Venus, her feminine energy, is in Scorpio. Pluto is Scorpio's own planet, and so that's death, regeneration, depression, transformation. The moon is her emotions. Mercury is her communication, and Ceres is her grieving, the part of her that grieves. So all of this is like an enormous amount of Scorpio energy, and so it should come as not a surprise that this is a person who can deal with a lot of depression at times. Okay, so let's talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is a water sign. It is deep. It is emotional. It is a sign of secrets. Plunging the depths. It rules the 8th house. And it really has a lot to do with merging energies, transforming energies. Its motto is to dissolve and evolve, and that is according to Syl Carson, who's been my most important mentor when it comes to everything astrological. So Scorpio goes deep. It goes deep, 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 and comes up on the other side. And as I'm talking about this right now, it kind of reminds me of baptism. We have to go all the way under the water. It's a symbol of death, giving away all of our sins, the deep darkness. And then we come out on the other side, renewed, a different person. We have dissolved our evil past and evolved into a new creature. Okay, Scorpio's planet is Pluto. So everything that has to do with Pluto also has to do with Scorpio. So we're just digging deeper into what it means to be Scorpio. Scorpio deals with sex and death and birth and rebirth and transformation, regeneration, resurrection. This is the sign in the planet of going so deep that it feels like you died, and then coming back out again. Okay. Scorpio is in charge of the 8th house, which is the 2nd house of the unconscious. It is in charge of, there are 3 houses that deal with the unconscious mind: the 4th house, the 8th house, and the 12th house. So if you see on a natal chart, which I very ridiculously did not put a picture here, but it looks like a pie chart, 12 sections. Number 4, 8, and 12 are about emotional investment and the unconscious mind. All of them are ruled by water. In the 4th house, it's traditionally associated with home and family and belonging. And this is where we experience emotional depth in the body, the physical body emotional experiences of being, being physically body present in your home, with your family, experiencing belonging, having a mother, all of this kind of thing. It's 4th house. The 12th house is the opportunities to experience the hidden emotional content of the subconscious mind. It is depth of spirit, depth in the spirit. This is your spirit body's emotional experiences. So when we're having physical body emotional experiences, it's with the 4th house. When we have spiritual spirit body emotional experiences, it's with the 12th house. And the 8th house is the bridge. The 8th house bridges, and we experience depth with both our spirit and our body. We merge spirit and body with the 8th house, with Scorpio, with Pluto, okay? So this has to do with sharing emotional experiences with others and sharing between our own spirit and body, and basically the concept of merging, taking 2 separate energies, spirit and body, me and you, whoever is involved, and putting them all together to create whatever it is that's going to be created, I guess. The 8th house is called the cave. It is the place where we put things we don't want to see. This is where our power struggles show up, because this is where the unconscious mind and the physical body meet. So this is where we're going to look for all the big dramas of our lives. And that's why it's a really good thing to be aware of in general, and why please mute yourself, whoever is very loud. Sorry guys. What have I done? Go back. Well, I had so much to say about that, but I cannot go back, so I'm sorry guys. Okay, well, when it comes to depth, Scorpio is the deepest of the deep. And so it is a place to look when you're dealing with depression. If you ever are dealing with depression, you have to understand that it is a call to go deeper. Okay, so this is a picture of an actual literal depression in the earth. Okay, whenever there is a literal depression item, it means that there's become a depth. At the bottom of this depth is something that has been compressed, right? Originally, everything was, flat and equal to the land around it, and now something has squished it down, right? Something has squished something else down, and the stuff at the bottom is very compacted, and it is I don't know what's down there. That is the big question of depression. Something has caused something else to become compressed, and that thing is now deeper than it is supposed to be. When we are depressed, it is a sign that we need to dig deeper. Ooh, I figured out how to go backwards. Sorry, guys. Okay. 8th house, revenge, crime, bad karma, stuff we don't want others to think about. It's deeply complex. It can be very dark, but also very light. Okay. Oh no, what have I done? I'm sorry, I don't know what has happened. Okay, there we go. Scorpio transit. As the sun is going through Scorpio, it triggers everything on your natal chart that is in Scorpio and anything on your solar return chart that corresponds to that. So your solar return is the star chart that's generated on your birthday when the sun goes to the exact degree and second that your sun was when you were born, when you took your very first breath. So all year, so every year, as you're going through your year, the sun is triggering all sorts of stuff on your chart. It triggers these things so that anything that's unresolved from before you were born can come forth and be resolved. Okay. So every day, you don't have to know about deep past resolution. You don't need to know about star charts. All you have to do is actually live your life with consciousness, and everything that you need to resolve is going to be triggered and brought forth to be attended to. Okay, so this is just a very potent time right now, that while the sun is in Scorpio, to dig deep, regenerate, and dissolve and evolve. What do you need to let go of so you can step into something new? I'm sorry, guys, I have a throat thing. I'm trying to take sips of water in between, but I might have to end early because if I get really coughing, I'll just cough forever. Okay. So we're also going through Mercury Retrograde. Mercury is the planet, oh, that is a lie. I don't know why I said that. It's not the closest planet to the Earth, but it is the closest planet to the sun, sorry. And it is pretty close to the Earth, so it has more of an influence than, say, Pluto or something. And we really feel it when it goes into retrograde because it is so close to the Earth. I read somewhere somebody comparing it to Mercury is like a train. And so as the train whizzes past, it just can you imagine that wind in your face knocking you back, moves so fast that it kind of shakes us all up. During Mercury retrograde, Mercury appears to but does not actually move backwards according to the Earth's perspective. Mercury governs communication and is also archetypally associated with mischief and trickery. We love speed, answers, and questions. Mercury kind of goes with like Google and email, right? Cell phones. And so this is one reason why people say like it's a technology problem, must be Mercury retrograde. And so I kind of joked earlier tonight that I was having Mercury retrograde problems because I foolishly tried a new technique with Zoom, which was a mistake, and I do regret it now, but I do feel that it was perhaps in part due to the influence of Mercury. Okay. Mercury retrograde takes Mercury, the planet, the influence of Mercury takes our conscious and our subconscious mind and converts it into words. That's kind of what Mercury is up to. So this Mercury retrograde is happening from tonight. Tonight is the first night of Mercury Retrograde, and it will be going on until November the 20th. So we should be good for Thanksgiving, thankfully. And this Mercury retrograde is in Scorpio. Previously this year, Mercury went through Pisces and Cancer. Pisces rules the 12th house, which, if you will remember, deals with our emotional foundations in our spirit. And Cancer deals, and the 4th house deal with our emotional foundation in our body, our home, the house that we live in, the family members that we, were born to through somebody's body. So we've already had this chance this year to kind of be dealing with our Pisces themes of communicating the things from our subconscious mind, our spiritual, emotional issues. And then Cancer brought up our family issues and physical, body, emotional stuff. And now we're here in Scorpio. So it's going to be interesting to see how our subconscious mind communicates itself, like Mercury, through transformative Scorpio. This is a chance to dissolve and evolve if we choose to, or it is a chance to really just mope around and have everything fall apart if we choose to. The sky is a mirror. That is my own opinion. The heavens do not make anything happen. We make things happen with our agency. Our agency is heavily impacted by our subconscious mind. That's why it's so important to do spiritual work to clean out our subconscious mind so that we can be functional, basically. So that when we make our choices, we know that it's really an enlightened choice, that it's really a good choice and not a choice made out of weird fears, like weird issues that we don't understand because they're subconscious. It is my opinion that in some ways the heavens reflect us. And that's why I say the sky is a mirror. The sky is not the one making us do anything. We do things. The heavens also create soul weather, and so that is the term that was coined by Syl Carson, who is my kind of astrological mentor. She is so great, and she teaches a great class on all of this stuff. But when you think about the weather doesn't make us do anything, right? Did the snow make you do this or that? Did it make you mean to your kids? Did it make you, do this choice or that choice? Like, no, the weather doesn't make anybody do anything. But if it's raining, you might opt to not go, trick or treating, or you might instead choose to buy an umbrella. And so the weather doesn't make us do anything, but it can influence what we choose to do. We can look outside out of our own house and say, oh, it's rainy today. I'm going to put on rain boots, or, oh, it's sunny today. I'll put on some sunscreen. Or you can say, it's snowing. I guess I should grab a coat. And those are all wise choices that are made by the influence of the weather, by the influence of knowing the weather, but it doesn't make you do anything. And so it's kind of the same with soul weather. Are the planets making you do something? Can you tell the future with a planet? No. What you can do is look at a weather forecast, and you can say, oh, it looks like that kind of a day might be a real sunny day, or wow, that day might be a real snowy day. And I don't mean literal rain and snow and sun with soul weather, but you can look at a chart and say, whew, that's going to bring up some really traumatic stuff for a person. Or you can say, oh, wow, that will be, that is some interesting soul weather. And it all really depends on what our individual natal charts have going on. Now, the scriptures say that the heavens were ordained to show signs and seasons. And so you go ahead and Google this stuff if you want. I have an article about this called The Gospel and Reading the Stars. Ordinances of heaven. I love that phrase. I believe that is in Job, the book of Job, where God asks about the Mazzaroth, And the Mazzaroth is the Jewish term for the zodiac. And the zodiac has actually been found embedded in mosaic tiles on the bottom of ancient Jewish temples. So like this was a big thing. You know, God taught Adam to read the stars. Sorry, Abraham, I meant Moses. Anyway, the stars don't make us do anything. You can't tell the future with them. But what they do is convey messages that we can use with our agency. We can take a look at what's going on in the weather, and we can choose to put on our snow boots, right? We can say, ooh, I can see that today I got to be extra careful with how I choose to use my words. You know, today I need to, you know, be really smart with my technology and not take a risk and try something new with my Zoom because it's Mercury retrograde. So of course it will go wrong on me. So those are the kinds of messages that we should pay attention to. Yes, I say after foolishly experimenting with Zoom. Okay. So impacts and implications here. How does your natal chart come into play? You always need to look at your own natal chart to see how your own self is going to be triggered by these different planetary alignments. And but also, you know, I love working with natal charts. I love all of this stuff, but it also kind of doesn't matter because it's going to happen whether you know about it or not. And so really the most important thing is how much spiritual work you have done. And you don't need a fancy app to tell you your natal chart for that. Like, you don't need to learn about natal charts to know how to do your spiritual work. And by your spiritual work, I mean, well, basically Scorpio stuff, digging deep, going into that 8th house of stuff that you don't want to see, and pulling it out again so that you can see it and work with it and fix it and change it and heal it. And so as you go and look at the parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, the stuff that you dread about yourself, that is the stuff that you need to really pull out, I say with God, and take a good hard look at it. See what needs to shift about it. How much spiritual work you have done is really going to impact how your charts play out for you, how the weather plays out for you. And so you can kind of think of this like this kind of analogy. You know, if you are the sort of person that thinks ahead, you can look at yourself and say, man, you know, I guess I'm doing okay, but I really should get my food storage together. I should really, you know, have some rain boots around, and I should really, you know, be prepared for lots of different situations. And so maybe you would, you know, get a second job, or, you know, work harder, make some more money, go and spend your money on these like useful things that are going to bless your life down the road in the case of an emergency or something. And then when that emergency shows up, you already have the stuff, right? When the job is lost, or when when the earthquake comes, you have the food that you need because you did the work ahead of time. And so I'm a big believer in that concept of doing the work ahead of time, and doing, you know, as we prepare ourselves spiritually, we are preparing for the future, and so things don't have to be so bad for us. So the story that I wanted to tell was of this crazy day this year that I can't even remember what it was or really anything specific about it. But in the Soul Weather group on Facebook, which is just for you know, students of this astrology class that I take, everybody was saying, oh my gosh, this day, like, look at the soul weather. Oh, it's just dragging me apart. Ugh. And I thought, man, I'm having an awesome day. Like, wow, I'm sorry all these people are having such a hard day, but my day rocks. And I pulled up my natal chart, and all of the tough stuff, like for me on my chart, is triggering like awesome stuff. And I was like, oh, you know, this is how it can work. It can work. You know, that's how it can work. Every soul weather is going to impact people differently. You know, rain might seem like a really bad thing when you want to go trick-or-treating. But if your garden is thirsty, it's the best thing. And so our perspectives going in also really matter. Now, that reminds me of somebody's chart that I was like with a bunch of astrologers, and this lady had a marriage problem, and she pulled up her solar return, and for this year she had not this year, it was in a previous year, in the year that was current at the time, she had like Pluto, which is, remember, death and depression, all this kind of stuff, and Black Moon Lilith, which is a mathematical point that's like the dark feminine side. It can be the medicine woman or it can be the biatch. And so she had those like conjunct in the 7th house, which is marriage. And so she's having marriage problems. And one astrologer just said, oh man, this looks like divorce. Wow. And when you're looking at Pluto as death and Black Moon Lilith as kind of like the biatch, like in the 7th house, yeah, that looks like a divorce. But to me, I looked at that and I thought, or why isn't this a rebirth? Why isn't Pluto resurrection? And why isn't Black Moon Lilith the medicine woman? Why isn't she rebirthing her marriage? Like, you can really make it either way because it's all about agency. And how are things going to play out? You can choose. And so that's really a big message. I think that's the most important message, to do your spiritual work and to really make a choice. When you have a prominent Pluto, don't let it drag you down into death and hang out there. Like, come out on the other side and be reborn. Don't let, Black Moon Lilith have you dwelling in the land of the biatch all day. Like, come and be reborn and be the medicine woman. So you can alter your outcomes. As you do your spiritual work, you can get out of your own way and allow all things to work together for your good. Everything is already working together for your good. Okay. 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 So as we go through the next 3 weeks, pay attention to what's going on with Mercury and Scorpio themes in your life. You're going to really want to pay attention to issues of communication and issues of depth. So when it comes to Mercury retrograde, we can have communication problems or communication transformations. Are we having problems or are we healing? Are we healing problems? We really have to come at it with this understanding that everything that is happening for our good. And so, when your email stops working, or, in this obvious case, like I set my settings wrong on Zoom and now it's making my life inconvenient, I'm sure it is for the greater good. This is a transformative experience where I am learning a wonderful new skill, like not clicking that button on Zoom. And, coming to terms with that is a healing experience, and we all get to benefit from it. Okay, when it comes to depression, so we're dealing with communication things. We're dealing with depression things. Are we going to mope and hide from the stuff that we don't want to face? Or are we going to face it and dig deeper? Here I wrote communication with depression. What does that mean? What I meant by that was that we get to communicate with our own inner self. Are we communicating with our darkness? And so that is the gift of the next 3 weeks of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, is we get to communicate with our own darkest side and to help transmute it into something beautiful if we choose to. And so that is also the thing with Scorpio, is that Scorpio is where everything in our lives plays out. It is the meeting of our subconscious mind and our physical body. This is where all of our subconscious problems come forward to stir things up and get resolved, but many of us don't resolve them. So one example from my own life, this past month was like the worst month of my life. Not really, but at least in the past year, or possibly past like 2 or 3 years. And you know, I'm mostly over it, whatever, but like in the depths of it, I would think, you know, I need to face this. Or I could watch TV. And I will admit, I watched a lot more TV than I should have, even though there's like nothing even good out there, but I watched it anyway. And it was because I didn't want to deal with the stuff that was coming up. But if you want to heal it, you have to face it. And so that's the real secret. Whenever you start feeling like you want to watch TV, I'm going to challenge you to take a quick minute and ask yourself, is there something I'm trying not to feel? Because the fact is that if you are trying not to feel it, it is going to come out, whether you want to see it or not. And that will come up in one of our images that we're going to go through momentarily. I guess it will be lecture plus an image. I'll just tell it to you. Julius Caesar. Wow, right? That is a great example of his subconscious mind. You know, he had no idea that he had ticked off everybody and that all the other senators were going to literally take turns stabbing him so that they could all murder him together. Like, wow, what a trauma, right? And that is like such a Scorpio thing, right? It's just he was not willing to face how he had hurt other people. He was not willing to face the realities of what was going on. And when you don't face the realities of what is wrong in your own heart, then the whole room of senators lines up to stab you. Like, that's basically how it goes. We can look within ourselves, team up with God, figure out what's wrong, and start repenting on our own, or we can deal with some serious betrayal. Now, speed. Mercury moves quick, and Scorpio can be deep and dark. So this is our chance. It's going to be bringing our darkest gunk forward to face and resolve, and it can go very quickly, or we can continue ignoring it. So basically the message of this 3-week period. Oh, one moment. Hi, honey. Can you have some snuggles? Yeah. Do you want to sit on my lap right now?
Well, I just want snuggles in my room.
Okay, I will go there when I'm done with this, okay? Can you close the door behind you? Okay, keeping it real. Okay. So when we ignore our stuff, that is when it gets bad, okay? And I know that we all have life examples of this where you're like, we put off, you know, doing this or doing that, and then when we finally get around to it, it's like out of control. I think garages are probably a really great example of this. Like, it's like, oh, it's the garage. Who cares? Like, put another box in, throw a pile of tools in, like, here's a bag, here's this, here's that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even walk in there. And Mercury is here to unpack the garage. You know, if Scorpio is the cave, Mercury is here to dig out all the gunk from the cave so we can sort it and analyze it and keep what is good and transform what is not so that we can heal. You can really see when people are ignoring their Scorpio, Pluto, 8th house. Like, when people are ignoring their issues, that is when depression shows up. That is when that's when everything kind of falls apart. And so you've probably noticed this, but maybe you didn't notice that you noticed this, but energy kind of goes in sets. So, you know, when a person is not very functional Usually they're not very functional on like all the levels, right? Their car is falling apart. Their body is falling apart. Their house is falling apart. Their relationships are not good, right? And then the next step up, you know, maybe they find it within themselves. They're like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna change. And so they start exercising in the morning. And then all of a sudden they have a little bit more energy. They think, oh, I guess I could, you know, work harder at my job. They get a raise. And then they can afford a better car. And then they're feeling so motivated that they're improving their lives even more. And so they start you know, improving, and it becomes this cycle of improvement. And then at the very top of the list, kind of, you know, people you're like in great shape. All of your family relationships are great. You have great friends. You have a great car. You know. So, anyways, the Scorpio, Pluto, eighth house energies are really key in this kind of cycle of energetic alignment, I guess you could say. Because if your Scorpio energies are out of whack, it's going to be dragging your whole life down. Scorpio is really, it's oh, here I wrote the word enactments. Here, let's read it. Okay, patterns that can't be broken. That's like when you find yourself in this pattern that you're doing over again. That's a Scorpio thing. That's an eighth house thing. Gotta deal with it. You have to turn off the TV and take out your journal and write it out and just say, God, body, self, subconscious mind, what is going on in here that I have to resolve? What is the thing that I don't want to see? Show me what I don't want to see so that I can fix it. And we write down the answers that we get so we can break the patterns and step into a higher level of energy. Scorpio is the bridge between the hidden stuff in the spirit and in the body. When we run from these dark things that we came to Earth to resolve, our enactments are messy. And what I mean by that is, you know, another word I could use is performances, okay? And if you go into like the scripture, go into the Bible, oh, come on, the index or whatever, and, oh, the topical guide, I'm sorry. Look up performances, and there's a really interesting scripture about performances in the Doctrine and Covenants. But to me, this is the energy of us kind of unconsciously acting out. I'm sorry about my voice. When we are acting out from the subconscious mind, our lives look like they're falling apart. Excuse me. Okay. So tonight we get to dig deep, and I prepared 3 images, but maybe I will just do 2 or possibly just 1. I'm sorry. And then I want to do Q&A. Okay. So go ahead and just get comfortable and imagine. Our first image is a building on fire. The emotion coming up is fear. Nothing is safe. Everything is burning. All around, there's burning. There's a lot of pain. The skin is burning. And it feels like everything is burning. My body is burning. Loss, losing everything. Trying to save everything or even just anything and can't save anything. Panic, horror, betrayal. How can this be happening? Shock, terror, paralysis, shut down. Can't breathe, smoke in the throat, despair. Must hold on to everything. Go ahead and tap on your forehead and take some good deep breaths to breathe this out. Releasing this. Putting in a new belief that says it can be safe to let go. It can be safe to let the house burn down. It can be safe to let myself catch on fire. It can be safe to surrender to the pain. It can be safe because this is the energy of the phoenix. As we burn into ashes, we rise from the ashes as a new creature that is stronger, more powerful, more beautiful, more capable. The house has to burn down because that is the same place where you will rebuild. You will rebuild with better things and be a better self. Breathe it in. Big feelings of worthlessness come up, can't clear yet. It really adds to the pain to be burned down and believe that you're worthless. Can't clear yet? No, there's something more to it. Pre-earth. I see an image of an energetic violation, war in heaven era, and a person disassociating and just feeling like everything about me is worthless. When I'm destroyed, it's worthless and there's no meaning. There's no meaning to anything that I sacrifice. I give up everything. I let my house burn down. I let my body burn. And it has no meaning and there is no hope. It can start to clear now. Please tap on your forehead. Take some good deep breaths to clear it out. Shaking it out. Filling up the space where all this was with light. Breathing it in. Okay. And number 2 is Julius Caesar stabbed in the back. And I just want to say my favorite meme in the whole world is the one where it just says, well, 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 if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. And that's really the message of Scorpio. It's except it's the consequences of our own subconscious, unconscious, unknown, deep stuff. If it isn't the consequences of all the deep, dark stuff in myself that I didn't resolve. Okay. Go ahead and see if you can imagine Julius Caesar. He's getting stabbed in the back. Shock, horror, dismay, confusion, panic, paralysis, freezing, can't even move. The unknown consequences of my actions have come to kill me. It feels like icy hands on the throat. I see a contract that says, I contract to suffer at the hands of those I have unknowingly wronged. And this cannot clear yet. Fear, a fear that if I don't suffer for the things and ways that I unknowingly hurt people, that God will punish me much worse. It's better to suffer the punishment of people I know than God. Can it clear now? Yes? Okay, go in your mind. If you can imagine that piece of paper, go ahead and rip it up. Throw it out the window. We're putting in a new belief of it can be safe. Whoa, huge resistances to this. Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay, I contract. Okay, up is coming a belief of if I don't let other people hurt me that I've accidentally hurt, God will hurt me much worse. So there is this idea that, okay, here comes the belief that being hurt by others is part of the repentance process, or like, that's the only way I can change, that's the only way I can heal. I don't deserve to heal unless I suffer at the hands of those I've unknowingly wronged. Is it safe to remove this? No. Fear, fear, fear. Fear of punishment, it can clear now. Go ahead and tap, tap, tap. Breathe it out. Imagine ripping up that contract, and we'll put in, it can be safe to surrender my needs to be punished. And it can be safe to surrender into the arms of a loving God that can protect me and that views me with compassion. It can be safe to view myself with compassion. I contract to allow myself to experience compassion at the hands of those I have unknowingly wronged. I choose to allow myself to experience understanding and compassion at the hands of those I have unknowingly wronged. Breathe it in. Go ahead and imagine Julius Caesar. He's been stabbed 56 times or whatever. And imagine now all of those knives, all those stab holes, like they come undone, and he starts to heal one wound at a time. And breathe it in and feel it in your body. All the times you've been stabbed in the back, all the times you've been betrayed and you didn't expect it. Imagine those wounds exiting your body and sealing up with light as you experience compassion at the hands of those who have betrayed you, knowing that perhaps they consciously are not in that kind of space right now, but their higher selves desire to shower you with compassion. Somewhere in eternity, a part of them desires to shower you with compassion. And so every wound can be healed. Breathe it in. And I am going to invite you to pray to see what you don't want to see about yourself. Address it yourself instead of letting it unfold through your own unconscious actions, instead of letting it unfold through the way that you interact with others. This is the way to prevent terrible situations, is by proactively seeking answers about the things you need to change in your own heart, instead of letting it unfold naturally and learning the hard way. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I was going to do a third image, but my throat hurts, so I'm not doing that. Okay. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or any thoughts, or did you want to say anything? You can unmute yourself, or you can send it in the chat, and we can just talk about it. Oh, thank you for prayers for my throat, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of patterns, and it interesting how you're using houses. Seems like everything in my life seems to be revolving around houses and moving. And recently, well, we're actually in the middle of looking for a house again to move into, and I feel like my whole life has been one big pattern of just not being able to stay in one place for very long. The longest I've ever lived anywhere has been 6 years when I was a kid. And so we're kind of facing this point where we're not able to afford this house right now since I had to quit, and I was hoping to kind of get things going with my, business, life coaching, but it just hasn't happened yet. And I keep, seeing the same cycles coming up again. And fascinating enough, just a few years ago, me and my husband both woke up with dreams at the same time. And they were both very spiritual dreams. Mine was of the temple, and he was given the dream of parable of 4 houses, and we were never able to figure out what the 4th house meant. It was fascinating how it worked out this way, but he'd have to be able to explain it better because I can't remember. But the 4th house, like each home would change for people as they would go into it. And the 4th house, of course, A lot of people would go in and see, some people either would never come back out, and they seem to be like descending or ascending up to like heaven or something is what we were thinking. The rest of the people would come out screaming like it was some sort of haunted house or something. And we were really confused what that meant. And he had kind of a guide who was kind of teaching him stuff, but he never was able to figure out what that one meant. And I just feel like, in my life, and I don't know what it keeps coming back to, but the thing with not being able to stay in the same place, and I don't know what's coming up with this and why. Don't know if it has anything to do with, again, my natal chart or, contracts or something that I've gone through. I read your book, so, I know, I've been going through, releasing trapped emotions and, with the emotion code, I've done body code work. So I got my heart all cleared, but I keep running into the same old thing, like where we just about get to where we're starting to get out of this situation. Like we've been given promises and patriarchal blessing, for both me and him, that we're supposed to be able to help other people temporarily, but we keep coming back to this, not quite making it. And I don't know if it's like we're self-sabotaging or what, but the pattern keeps coming back. So I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering what to do about, from that point of going through and finding out where the patterns come from. Because I know you talk about, doing some intuitive collaboration to kind of figure that out, but I'm kind of stuck on that, like how to figure it out and what to do with it from there.
Yeah. Can I access your energy field?
Sure.
Okay. I found something. I wanted, Holly, are you willing to, do you want to try your hand at this for a minute?
I just, when she was talking, I was just like, there's a vow. I feel it. That's all I know.
Do you want to look into it, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I can look. Maybe we can look together or something.
Yeah. Okay, so Holly is one of my mentorship students, and so she is going to take a look, if that's okay with you, Heather.
That's good. Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Kind of feels like there's a vow with her and her husband. And it feels deep past. There's like a searching path, and kind of like I'm getting this feeling of, if I stay in one place too long, I won't learn my lesson. Like somehow, like constantly moving keeps you constantly aware of some kind of lesson that you need to learn or something. And that maybe once you learn the lesson, that you could stop moving. That's what I'm getting. I don't know. Does that feel right to you, Allie?
Well, does that feel right to you, Heather?
Partly. I know I always kind of look at it like, well, maybe there's someone else I'm supposed to help or someone else I'm supposed to meet. But I feel like, my kids are suffering because they want just a place to kind of, they want to just have roots and have friends and not leave them again. And so at this time I've been trying to find something still within the same area. And so I think there's definitely got to be something like a vow or something. But it's frustrating because I feel like there's a block, because I know we're supposed to be to that point where this doesn't keep coming up. We're supposed to be helping other people. So I got to figure out what to do to get over that somehow. And so if it's a vow, it makes sense. I don't, I'm still kind of new to this. It's only been since, there's some stuff that I kind of learned growing up because I had a therapist who was very spiritual minded, but he didn't really know what things were called because he just had certain gifts of discernment, but he didn't know. So now that I've been getting into the, empath group, I've been able to hear new language and verbiage that I'm not used to yet. And so it's new to me, but I understand it. It's like somehow it's like I've always known it without knowing what things were called. So.
Okay, so one thing that's coming up, I'm gonna write this down in here. Okay. Okay, one thing, so this vow, the vow that I'm getting is to to oh, one moment, I'm not done yet, honey. Well, in probably like another hour, okay? I know, Mercury Retrograde, right? Yeah, I love you, my bud. Here, do you want to come? Do you want me to give you a kiss? Yeah, you can sit on my lap. Okay. This is my little 4-year-old. He is a snuggle bug. So anyway, everyone can see you. Okay, so the vow that I got was that it was a vow to just keep on moving until you learn the lesson. Did it say which lesson? No. Does it know which lesson? No. Does that feel accurate? It's like, I don't know what the lesson is.
Yeah.
Clear now? Yes. Okay, so go ahead and in your own mind, see if you can imagine a piece of paper that has this vow written on it, and just rip it up, snip it up, take out those, spiritual scissors and just snip away. And
I was just getting an image of a yellow brick road, and then I kept hearing there's no place like home. And I was feeling this energy of like they need to learn to band together as a family and realize that there's no place like home. And that means like the family, not where you live, is what I'm hearing. You can see if that feels right to you, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes you cry. I don't know why.
Yeah. Now that reminds me of one thing I was going to say about the 4th house that you had mentioned, is that the 4th house, like we mentioned in the lecture, it is the house of belonging, and where do you belong? And the fourth and the 8th and the 12th houses in an astrological chart are the houses of endings. And so I just thought it was really interesting that in that 4th house in the dream, people can go in and get ascended, or they come out running and screaming. And to me, that's just like, how's your ending? Are you ascended, or are you running away screaming, But that's also the house of belonging. Where do you belong? And so, so digging into where you belong, and learning how to belong wherever your family is, even if you have to move, that's a important lesson. But if you can learn it, then maybe you don't have to move so much. So maybe that's a big thing to be working on with the skills that you have. It would be to start working on every individual person in your family's issues about belonging and being cohesive as a family unit. So working with everybody separately and working with the family energy as its own separate energy. So those are places where I would get started. Another thing that I noticed was kind of like a curse on your energy with that. Just breathe it out. I kind of like did some work on it in my mind, but it should be able to go. Just breathe it out. And then the third thing is I saw a path. So everybody's energy field, exists. People that can see like auras or chakras or whatever, a lot of times they see a person's energy field and like that's it. But if you zoom on out, everybody's energy is in a place. All of our energy fields are in an environment, okay? And so whenever a person says they feel like they're drowning, usually their energy is in like an energy, it's in like an energetic like ocean or swamp or something, and they're like actually energetically drowning. Like if you just look at their auric field or their energy system or their chakras or something, you're not going to notice that. You have to zoom on out and say, oh my gosh, no wonder they're drowning. Maybe their chakras are in good condition, but their energy field is drowning right now. You have to move them out of that space into another space. And I always place my clients on the rock of our Redeemer. Okay, Helaman 5:12. what's really interesting is Helaman 5:13, where he talks about what it means to go to the rock of our Redeemer. But then in the next verse, he says, "On a lot more things did he teach his sons that, like, I can't write here." And I'm like, that's what he taught them. He taught them that this is literal truth. That's my opinion. But we got to take ourselves from wherever we are in this environment and place ourselves on the rock of our Redeemer, which looks like a marble palace, like a Grecian temple almost, all marble. And so as you place yourself there, you'll find a stability and a strength and a peace. And so what I saw was for you and your family, I saw you and your husband kind of leading the way, and the environment of your energy fields was kind of in like this kind of like figure 8 or like a circle kind of pattern. And it's kind of like, we're doing this again. Okay. And now we're doing this again. Now we're doing this again. And so what I want you to do is go in your mind, and as the leader of your family with your husband, just pluck all of your energies out of that path and plonk them right down in the marble hall. And every person will have kind of their own like platform of marble rock, and they will just stand there and feel so grounded and calm. And just know that you don't have to walk that same circular path over again. It can be safe to let it go and just go plonk yourself at the feet of our Redeemer. Go and let him be your foundation on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. Connect your energy with the Savior's energy in this, in the marble hall. Okay, hi. Excuse me. Okay, how are you feeling, and what do you think?
It definitely sounds cool. I feel like we definitely got to work with everybody in the family, and I've been doing so much work with other people outside of a family. I feel like I'm neglecting, here in the home. And so we do have a lot of issues to go through. So, and I don't know if part of the moving has affected that with the kids too, with some of their emotional issues. So I do need to removing some things and helping everybody to feel more grounded. So, because that's, I think being grounded is kind of an issue.
Yeah.
So, and we have a lot of love in our home, but we, also have a lot of just that sense of nobody knows really what's happening next. And so everyone in our family has a really hard time sticking to the plan and finishing what we start. And just, everybody has great ideas and, great creativity and imagination, and always starts all these amazing things. And we're overachievers and we have too many gifts and talents, but nobody's finishing anything. And it's just how it is for all of us, everyone. And I've got 6 kids and my husband, and it's fascinating to see the patterns being handed down to my kids too. And I'm like, we got to stop this before it keeps continuing. So, because I feel like all these patterns are somehow related to this change that's consistently coming up in our lives. And this will be our 9th move if this goes through. So,
that's a lot of moves.
Just since we've been married. So.
Well, this 3-week period, Mercury Retrograde in Scorpio, is a great time to be digging very deep with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm excited for you. And one thing I want to encourage you to do is not wait for big pockets of uninterrupted time to do your work for your children.
Okay.
One thing that I do, I muscle test like this, or I just use
I did this one.
Oh, perfect. So maybe this is horrible, but sometimes I drive like this. And like if I'm sitting at the stoplight, I'm like, okay, let's figure out what's going on. And I work on my family in the car a lot. I work on my family, when certain fellows need some nighttime snuggles that last for a really, really long time. Mm-hmm. And I just have to sit there. And so,
I notice you do things that are kind of different from, you know, stuff that I've seen another, I mean, because I'm used to the emotion code, but you pull things out of the ether somehow, and then you just amazingly get into this intuitive stuff. I'm like, wow, how do you do that? You know, it's just, and sometimes I feel like I've got this idea about stuff with people, but I don't ever know if I'm confident enough to voice it, or if I'm really sure if that's really what it is or not. So, you know, and I've kind of been going more with my intuition when I worked with clients, but you always just seem so sure. And so I really am seeing this or feeling this about, you know, with people. And so that would be, and I do want to do a mentorship with you. So it's just a matter of, yeah, getting the clients coming in so I can do that. But.
So conscious intuitive work really comes down to a few different things. It is. Oh, maybe did I get it? Anyway, I mean, the big secret is that I never know what I'm talking about. I mean, like, as far as intuitive stuff, I just have to go with it and see, and like sometimes I'm not totally right, although usually I am, I'll be real, but sometimes not. I mean, here's a really horrible story that like still ticks me off, but it's okay, getting over it. I worked on this person for hours, and what had come up, like this very specific type of trauma had come up, and I was like, I can see this like very specific thing going on in your life, and we have to address it in this session. And this person was like, no, that never happened to me, blah, blah, blah. You're crazy. That doesn't work. No. And anyway, she wasted my whole time and then didn't pay, which was awesome. And then 2 years later reached out and was like, oh, actually, I just found out all this other documentation and you were completely right. And now will you please help me with all this stuff? And I thought, no, boundary. No, go find somebody else, crazy. But anyway, you know, I've told this story before, but years ago, before my third eye kind of woke up, I was called to repent. Sorry, I just got a new phone and I'm like not totally sure how to make it be quiet, so I'm just sorry about that, guys. But anyway, I was called to repent, and I didn't even know. Well, I was told I was too masculine, and that I needed to repent and become more feminine. And this was very upsetting to me, and I just thought, what's wrong with me now? Like, being masculine isn't a sin. Like, how can you tell me to repent for that? Like, I wear dresses to church, don't I? Like, I have a whole makeup case full of makeup that I wear, so what's the problem, you know? And I humbled myself, went through this whole spiritual journey, unlocking the divine feminine, and it was horrible. I spent most of my time crying. It was like definitely a dark night of the soul kind of experience. And you want to come see me again? Yeah. Okay. He said, can I get some rest? And I said, yes, but now he's back. Okay. Taking your deep breaths, buddy. Yeah. So anyway, part of the issue that I was being told to repent for, and this was all like, just like what I was just hearing in my mind, you know, and like I would open the scriptures, they would fall right on like 1 Peter 3:2 or something horrible, you know. I'd be like, no, my worst nightmare. And anyway, all of this, one of the things that I was being told to repent of was relying on logic instead of intuition. And so I ended up making a promise to God on 11:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve in like 2013 or 2014 or something. It must have been 2013. And I was like, God, anything you tell me, anything that comes into my head, I'm going to believe it. So don't tell me anything wrong. And that was the promise that I made. And the next morning at 4 a.m, I was awoken with a vision. And I saw very clearly this lady's energy field and like this like mass. in this part of her body. And the spirit was like, you have to go to her house today. And it like downloaded this information of like how to fix it. And I was just like, whoa, buddy, like what? And so I didn't, and I put it off. And then by 10 a.m., so like 6 hours later, it was like, I felt like I was going to explode, and I was just like, okay. So I texted her. I like barely knew her, and fortunately when I showed up at her door, she was like kind of aware of like energy stuff. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just kind of like did it, and she felt different. And so that was good. And it all like, it was good, but it was also crazy. And anyways, after that day, basically every day was kind of just like that. But it's been just an exercise in learning how to trust immediately. And I think that's where I think everybody gets remarkably accurate, intuitive insights. But I think most of us are just afraid, we're just afraid to trust them, or they tell us things we don't like. So this is something I felt like I should share. As I was going about my day today and thinking about tonight's hangout, I thought 2 nights ago now, I was just minding my own business, okay? And I heard the voice of the Lord, and it said, it's almost time for you to pray for an opportunity to understand loss. And I thought, oh, no, I don't want to do that, And so all of yesterday, I was like very upset about it because I thought, oh my gosh, I've already lost a whole bunch of stuff, okay? So like all the stuff that I would really learn about loss now, like I don't really want to, like, I don't know, what else could I lose that I don't want to lose, And so so yesterday was a rough day, and then all day today I've been having this conversation with the Lord, just where he's had to just really remind me that every time we lose something, we get something better, and like everything can be fixed. Losing something is not the end of the world. It's always okay to lose something. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking Scorpio. I'm thinking of Scorpio is the scorpion, but it's also the snake. And one thing I'm thinking of is like those reptiles where you like chop off their tail and they grow a new tail, And it's just like God is telling me, like, I can choose to pray for an experience where I can learn this, or I can learn it the hard way, So like, what will I choose? Today in a fit of anger, I was like, fine, God, send me some loss, And that was probably not the right attitude, but I did say the prayer I was asked to say. But now I need to go repent and say it the real way. But I don't know. We just have to trust and really be open to it, especially when we get inspiration for things that we don't want. Because really, to me, that's kind of the secret of evolving, and like, moving forward in life in every area. You just have to look at all the stuff you don't want to look at, and really face it. Okay. I don't even know if that was helpful. Any thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts.
That was helpful.
that just made my mind just so I have lots more thoughts now.
Oh yeah. Well, want to share a few of them while I have a
check? Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking, and part of while you were talking, I was also thinking of when, my husband and I tend to also get dreams like I always get a dream right before it's about time to move, like even when I'm not even thinking of it, but I'll have a dream of moving. And I don't know, again, with this vow, this contract thing, if it's something that like I've signed up for to move it forward with another move again. I know that there's some point where it's not going to be that way. And I don't know if this is like, and there's another rental. So I don't know if we're going to be moving like maybe 2 more times or just 3 more times, or if it's just, this is hopefully, we want our place. And I was kind of hoping this was going to be the last one before we'd find it. But I just keep thinking, that in trying to build my intuition and get in tune to people, to be able to hear God and know how to help people, because this, I feel called to do this. I'm supposed to help people. And I'm been meditating. I've been praying about how to increase that intuition and that ability, and follow up on promptings that I get. And I partly am thinking of, times where I skipped out on the prompting, and I wonder if maybe things were delayed because I didn't act on that, and maybe it was kind of withheld because I didn't move forward with that right away. So I've been trying this last year to just be a little bit more immediate on acting on when I get those thoughts. So, and I feel like as I do that more, it's been helping me to get more.
Yes. The
And
more
so,
you practice just acting instantly on the crazy stuff,
yeah.
the
And
more
it's,
confident you get,
yeah. Well, and it's interesting the people that suddenly are like, oh, you're right on that, or hey, I'm open to that, when I didn't think they would have been. But then there's, a couple people that are, you're just whatever. But I know that somehow by doing this, it's going to, direct me to the right people that I need to be helping, and, whatever it is that my purpose is to connect to people. So, and how you were talking about how, the loss of one thing leads to something even better. And I know everywhere that I have been, there've been something that we helped with, something that we gained from where we went. And so, I have definitely learned something everywhere we've gone. And I've also gained a huge group of friends and people that I never would have met otherwise. So, and I kind of talk to my kids that way, like, I know that you're sad that you're leaving these friends, but think of the new friends you're going to be making now, and we can still keep in touch with these old friends now. So you're just getting more friends. But it's, it's still hard because I want to settle. But I'm trying to figure out where my balance is, and just, God, just show me what to do, because I feel like I'm being led somehow. So I'm just trying to be open to that intuition and making sure that what I'm feeling isn't just my own stupidity of a vow or a contract that I wasn't necessarily needing to do, that I'm just doing it to myself, or is it there's something that God has in plan for me, And so it's just that balance of which is it this time, and when does it end, and kind of trying to find the in-tuneness to that part of my plan. So
yeah, that is definitely, the thing for me was just telling God that from now on, the only kind, like, I'm not allowed to have my own, only him,
mm-hmm.
So that when those things come into my mind, I can't be like, is that just me? Like, no, it's not. I already said it's not me, it's him.
Yeah. Well, I study so many different people, and I always try to pull what I feel is truth from because I feel like everybody's been given inspiration, but, as soon as they come up with something that's like the philosophies of men mingled with scripture, and I know that there's something that's not quite right, I have to kind of pull back. Because I just found another awesome guru that I've been loving and listening to, that he's like, he was rejecting the Messiah. I'm like, oh, not you too. So I'm like, I've got to find out how to separate what I know to be true and what I've, been inspired to learn, and try to keep it in this curriculum that I'm, becoming aware of, and that I want to be teaching people. And there's just so much to all of this. That's so much.
Yeah. The other thing too, I had two other thoughts about this. One that I thought that I needed to mention today was to just never take it all too seriously.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll get, all sorts of weird stuff into my brain, and I just have to say, I can't take it too seriously. Like,
yeah.
I'll do it, I have like the weirdest job in the world, like professional intuitive, whatever, but like, I don't take it too seriously. Like, I take it very seriously, but also like, if I feel like I have a prompting and then it doesn't appear to work out right away, I don't take it too seriously. Like, I don't beat myself up over it. And I definitely really believe in, like earlier, Holly asked me how I felt about if you had a vow going on. And what did I do? I asked you. Because it's not really you are the authority on you, So I would never tell somebody like I never tell somebody, you have this problem in your space. I might say, I think you have this problem in your space, or what is coming to me is that this is happening. But I would never claim to have, for sure received something for somebody else. you know, you are always the authority on your own body. And when we get out of that space of making ourselves the authority, and instead just remember that the person, you know, the client is always their own authority. Like, we're just like this random person that, you know, has these like particular skills or whatever, but like whatever we get, you know, they are the ones that have to decide if what comes up is accurate or not. And we just have to have no ego. You know, we can't say, you know, it's not us. You know, we just have to get away from it. It's not you. It's not me. You know, the stuff that comes up in a session is not mine. And, you know, I didn't make it up, and I'm just the conduit. And if it's wrong, then maybe I did my conduit stuff wrong. But I don't beat myself up over that. You know, we just do the best that we can. Here, Holly had written, the obstacle is the way, and that is a really great message for Scorpio and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Whenever there's a block, somebody said, what does that mean? The obstacle is the way means that whenever there's a block, when there's something we don't want to face, that is the thing that we have to face. You know, when something comes up, I think I did. Oh, okay. So, sorry, somebody sent me a private message. Anyways, okay. I lost my train of thought. Okay, does somebody else have a question? Scorpio, Mercury retrograde, something random?
I was just wondering, Allie, I've been trying to work on my intuition instead of using the muscle testing. And it keeps changing. I mean, I'm very visual. And at first it was like my yes and my no was like I could see a thermometer in front of me. And if the mercury went up, that was a yes. And if it went down, that was a no. And then I started, a while back, I started getting a picture in my mind of a flock of geese flying. And if there was some geese, if the whole group kept flying together, that was a no. But if some of them dropped off, I mean, that was a yes. But if some of them dropped off, that was a no. And I want to, well, several times, if I'm not working on myself, I actually hear a yes or no in my mind. And I know it always ends up, or if a thought comes to my mind, it always ends up to be true. But it's so hard to work. I can't get it to work that well on myself. What? Do you have any suggestions for that?
Yeah. First off, I love how you have developed these images to help you determine yes or no. I have some myself. Everybody, I encourage you to discover this for yourself. Whenever I can't muscle test, what I will ask, my yes is I see an angel giving me a thumbs up, and my no is the angels give me a thumb down, you know?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. It makes it pretty clear. And then if they have something more specific to say, that they show me a whiteboard that has writing on it, and I usually can't read the writing right away, but sometimes I'll either open my ears to hear what they have to say, or look closer to read it. But you can do lots of things. I love that geese. Are they together? Are they apart? The thermometer up and down. I think you're doing great. I say practice makes perfect. I mean, the real secret to intuition is also that it is a function of the nervous system, your biological, physical nervous system. So my own awakening happened. It happened to coincide, before I was told to repent and do all this kind of stuff. Before that, I had been really getting into yoga and breath work, which really affects the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that connects the guts to the brain. And so anything you can do to strengthen the vagus nerve, anything you can do to strengthen your nervous system. Lige asks, has TRS influenced your intuition? I believe it has. TRS actually detoxes the pineal gland and the nervous system directly so that you can receive more. Whenever your nervous system is calcified, you just can't feel things the same way, So I do take like TRS. I do take other stuff. Yeah, it decalcifies the pineal gland. That's why a lot of people, when they take TRS, they do get more intuitive. There's like a bunch of stories about it in the TRS group. They get more intuitive. They sleep better. The pineal gland both regulates your sleeping and your dreaming and your intuition, like all of the above, which makes a lot of sense, I think.
I have been sleeping a lot better since I've been taking the TRS, and I'm going to get another bottle this month because I'm down to about an eighth of a bottle. So, but I've got the money to get it this month. So,
yeah. Well, keeping on top of that will help detox and like decalcify your nerves and your pineal gland so that you can, so that your intuition can function better. Like when we sit back and realize that intuition is a biological process, and that's one thing that I feel very strongly about with energy work. Is that all emotions are chemicals, and so when you have to drink a big cup of water after you do an energy work session, it's so that you can actually it's so that you can literally like pee out the broken up chemical residues of the emotions you broke apart during your energy work session. Okay, everything that we experience has a chemical structure, a chemical nature, and so when we're doing our energy work, and when we're like experiencing intuition, we have to understand that we experience it through the physical medium of this physical body. The physical body is the way that we are receiving this spiritual information, and that's and our physical brains are how we make it make sense, and so if the brain is having a trouble or the nervous system is having a trouble, that's going to affect the whole system. And that's when I get a zillion emails, and people, it's funny, I get this a lot in like wherever I like physically live. I get this a lot where people will come to my house and they'll say like, I have trouble like receiving revelation, but I felt like you could help me, which is funny because like they clearly acted on revelation but like didn't know it. But what was I just gonna say? But then I just always feel like this is a physical body problem. Like sometimes when you have trouble getting answers, it's because your physical body needs more support. You need the nutrition for your nervous system. You need to detox your nervous system, and then everything can start running more smoothly. So anyways, okay, the question was, how can we deal with our intuition? Okay, so physical body care, if you can't buy TRS, if you can't buy like the juice vitamins or whatever, number one thing to do is yoga. The number one kind of yoga that I like is Kundalini yoga. I have Kundalini yoga and meditation videos for free on YouTube. So you can just look up like Ali Duzet, like Kundalini, or Ali Duzet, like Kirtan Kriya. I'll type it in here. But sorry, I have it set weird. Okay, everyone. Okay, Kirtan Kriya. But just building that in, Kirtan Kriya is a 7-minute. It's a meditation yoga. You do motions with your hands. You sing, you chant, you whisper, you think in your mind, you do a visualization. It is 7 minutes long, and you can fit it into your day every day. And so the here, can you go to bed? Hey, love you, buddy. I know, I'm gonna snuggle you when I'm done, okay? Okay. So his bedtime is 8, by the way. And so this is the fruits of Halloween. Thank you, Halloween. Okay. So anyway, breathing, yoga, meditation, making it a daily practice is what is going to like open up your intuition a lot. Breathing, actually, like deep breathing. Maybe I should not have done that. But anyways, you should do it, but I maybe should not do it. When you breathe very deeply, so you have your lungs, right? These are your lungs, and they have a top and a middle and a bottom, okay? And when you breathe so deeply that you're breathing down into the bottom of your lungs, it releases a whole different kind of chemical reaction. It creates a chemical reaction that releases a bunch of neuropeptides. And those end up going right up into your brain, and they actually break down chemicals of emotion, weird like chemicals of like trauma. Like when you think about it, all of your negative beliefs are physical body structures within your brain, okay? So like your actual brain itself, the structure of it, the actual like shape of it is influenced by all of your beliefs. You know, all these little neurons are working together, building on each other and creating the structure that is your brain. And so as you are taking these deep breaths, as you're learning to breathe yogically, as you're stretching your body and, you know, creating these new pathways and strengthening and toning your nervous system, you're rewiring your brain. You are preparing your whole body self to become basically an antenna for spiritual information. And that's really what is the goal here. I mean, that's like my goal is to be an antenna for spiritual information so that I can walk into a room and just know all the spiritual information I need to know about whatever is going on, you know. And I keep that's how I view it. I keep my gifts all like turned off, not upright and locked position at all times, unless I'm like in a session or like in here, and then I have a preset that says like, if there's anything that I need to know, like anytime I go anywhere, like my whole life, I will know everything that is important for me to know through my like spiritual antenna. And anything that's not important for me to know, like I don't want to know it. Like when all my gifts turned on, I went to church, I like saw this guy's pornography addiction, I saw his wife didn't know, like I saw these drug addictions and like all sorts of weird issues. And I thought, oh my gosh, like how can I go to church every week and like know all this weird stuff? And like, I hate it. So anyways, now I don't know anything. I don't know anything about you. I'm not looking at your energy unless you ask me to, but
that would be awful.
it was awful. Yeah, that is one thing about the third eye that I learned is that when it turns on, when mine first turned on, I thought that everything that I saw was like important to see. Oh, and like, yes, that is my link. Thank you. But it turns out that the third eye is just like your normal eyes. And when you open your eyes, you know, like right here, I can see my laptop and like my cup, and, you know, behind me, I can see my husband's like gargoyle bookend and like family pictures and stuff. That doesn't mean it's important. It just means my eyes are open. When your third eye is open, you can see all sorts of weird stuff. It doesn't mean it's important. It doesn't mean it's all as a message for you. It just means your eyes open. So just close it. Just say only open for important stuff, you know. Don't waste my time. Don't waste my energy. It takes a lot of energy to run a functional third eye all the time. To have your third eye open all the time makes you crazy and stresses you out, and it just takes an enormous amount of physical body energy. So I always say just turn it off. Just keep it off and just pray that when it's important to be on, it will be on. And when it's not, just turn it off, you know. I feel like that went everywhere. The last piece of information or advice that I had for Francie was just practice. Practice makes perfect. Just do it. Just do it, you know? Just practice. I think you're doing
I have found that You know, with the muscle testing, I can kind of do it while I'm watching TV or whatever, but you can't do your intuition that way. You have to get in that still space.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't. I've got to get in a specific space
Yeah.
to be able to do it. And yeah, that the other thing that I have a problem with is I really have a problem with deep breathing. I think it's because my body's just about in fight or flight just about all the time.
Yes. As you said that, I heard yes. That is true.
I mean, it's a lot better than it was since I met all of you and joined the group. It's a lot better than it was. But
so on my YouTube channel, I have a video about moderating the adrenal glands. So I'm going to recommend that to you. The adrenal glands moderate fight or flight. Try to hold it in. The adrenal glands moderate fight or flight. So targeting your adrenal glands will help with that. And I'm getting for you, I'm seeing like a tiny bulldozer with like a big pile of stuff. And the message is to just, keep digging away, like take that shovel and just be shoveling out that huge pile with your little trowel, because you're going to get to the bottom of it. But, just a little bit at a time. Hold on, my friends. I'm going to get a little bit more water. So I'll just mute myself. I'll be right.
While she's gone, I just wanted to mention on breathing. I've been studying it a lot more lately. And some really important things to calm the nervous system through breathing is to make sure that your exhalation is longer than your inhale. And another thing you can do is hold your breath slightly right after you inhale. So you can breathe in for 4 counts, hold it for 6, and then exhale for 8.
It gets a lot easier for me if I exhale longer than I inhale.
Yeah. And one thing that does is the vagus nerve actually, when your exhale is longer, the vagus nerve that runs basically through all of your organs from your brainstem, it actually excretes a chemical called Vagostoff. It's a German word that means vagus substance. So it excretes a chemical on the heart that slows the heart rate down. And so that will, and I think that's, there's a lot of people who believe that a major problem for a majority of people isn't that we don't have enough oxygen. It's actually that we breathe too much and we don't have enough carbon dioxide. And we've been kind of like taught in school that carbon dioxide is this evil waste substance, like it's the waste of the earth, right? But it's actually necessary for our cells to take in oxygen. You have to have carbon dioxide present to absorb oxygen into your cells. And that's why when you hyperventilate, that you get dizzy and tingly and lightheaded. It's not you don't have oxygen, it's that you don't have carbon dioxide in your system.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, long exhales and just, I don't know, just breathing in general, taking time to breathe is so fun. My name is Lige Jessica. Lige Rose. Have you heard of Vagostoff, Allie? Vagus substance?
I'm sorry, I was so distracted with water.
Water. I was just talking, when it comes to breathing, like making sure your exhale is longer than your inhale. Your vagus nerve, when you do that, excretes Vagostoff, vagus substance, onto your heart, and it slows your heart rate down.
I have never heard of that. I'll have to go research that. That's very exciting.
That's cool. Yeah, the Wellness Mama. Are you familiar with her?
Mm-hmm.
She has a really great article on increasing vagal tone.
Ah, very good.
I know that when I get into my I also do Z point and I do this other technique that my therapist taught me called holographic memory resolution. And when I get into that space, which is kind of like a hypnotic state, I know I can breathe really deep and breathe really good then. But I have a really hard time just on a regular basis staying in that space.
Vegas stuff. Cool. In the chat, Lige has written down this chemical we all need to Google frantically after class. Thank you. Well, we have 15 more minutes. Does anybody have another question?
Allie, I have a question. Can you go back to talking about how the block is the way? Because I understand seeing the block, but I need examples of how to make the block a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block.
Yeah. I have reactionary airway disease, so like if I get like a slight, irritant, then my throat just like blah, blah, blah. It's gotten a lot better. This is my first flare up since like mid 2018, so that's like a big deal. Like I had a big retrace after I started TRS, like immediately my throat went crazy, and then this is the first time since then, so it's like a big deal. I'm so happy.
Allie, that makes me wonder, do you retrace a lot with TRS?
I mean, it just depends person to person. My kids haven't ever appeared to have any problems at all. They just like randomly have a gain, but like I have all the retracing. Retracing is when
you re-experience what you had previously.
Yeah, you re-experience old stuff that appeared to be taken care of. So like basically, like if so like I am fully vaccinated, and I still got the whooping cough shortly after my vaccination by surprise when it came to my high school and got everybody. And I coughed and coughed and coughed for 100 days, and it was the worst. And then I got over it, but realistically, I had terrible coughs forever, and I would think about cold air and cough, it was bad. And then when I took TRS, in the first week, I started whooping. I would take TRS and I would whoop. And I was like, what? And I realized I was retracing the whooping cough. Like, I didn't kill all the whooping cough bacteria. There was still some in there. And when my immune system was not functioning at its best, I'd get like, a little resurgence of the infection, but it was still just kind of lurking in my body. So when I detoxed the metal that it was eating, then the virus came out, or like that's technically bacterium, but then I had to actually fight the bacterial infection that had been hidden under layers of basically metal and pesticide and like other toxic material. Yeah, detoxifying an echo of the issue. Yeah. So some people retrace like mental health stuff, or like, how do I put it? I don't know. Like one kid, he'd outgrown out of a bunch of ticks, and then he took TRS and like started having ticks again. And it's because he outgrew the ticks, but the tick neural pathway was still there. It was just like covered with like metal and pesticide and like weird stuff. And so as that detoxed, then the ticks came back. But then as he kept detoxing, then they healed up on their own, because then the toxic stuff that was keeping them there was leaving. I hope that makes sense. But it's kind of like, if you have like a broken bone and then you just like let it heal how it is. Like you bandage it up, but you didn't set it properly. And then you start unwrapping the bandages. It's still a broken leg. Like you wrapped it up so you couldn't see it, but it was still broken. And so once you can see it, then the body can fix it, and then you can move on. So retracing does happen to, some people, and it doesn't happen to other people. And it just depends on your personal body chemistry and what's happening in your own body. And what I have found is that when people have bad retracing, like I had a client who, she would take one spray and get impetigo, retracing impetigo on her face, and it was like really bad, and she had like all this stuff. And by all this stuff, she had like presentations, like she had to go like be a lawyer or whatever in front of lots of people, and she was like, I can't go with looking like this. And so I muscle tested for her 16 sprays, and she said, oh my gosh, at one spray I have all this retracing. How will I handle 16 sprays? But she did it, and at 16 sprays she had no retracing because it stripped away the layer that was going to cause the retracing, and then it dissolved the layers underneath that, and so it just cleared the whole issue right at once. When people deal with retracing, I just say up your sprays, double them, triple them, quadruple them, see if it helps, because a lot of times it'll just get rid of it so much faster. So back to the block is the way. Yeah, if excess weight is caused by toxicity, then yeah. When you muscle test for number of sprays, what kind of questions do you ask? When I muscle test for the number of sprays, I ask questions like what number of sprays will help me overcome this issue? Like if it's a retracing issue, like for that girl, I was like, how many sprays would it take in one day for her to overcome this issue as quickly as possible without any negative side effects? So a lot of people ask like very vague questions like, can I take 5 sprays today? Or like, what is the best number of sprays? And you can do that. But if you have like an acute issue that you're trying to solve, then you can say, to solve this acute issue, how many sprays can I take without, negative side effects? How many sprays would it take for me to clear this out quickly without negative side effects? These days, I mostly don't muscle test on it. Yes, you could do that with, yes. But these days, it's a good intuition practice. I just like hold my spray up to my mouth, and then I just like hear a number in my mind, and I'm just like, guys, I have to tell you this horrible story. I'm like so embarrassed about it. Oh, I went to get shawarma at the Kebab King. Okay, I love that place. And they wrap their wraps in aluminum foil. And I seriously ate a piece of aluminum foil that I bit off with my bite of shawarma, and I felt like an idiot, and I swallowed it. Of course I did. So anyway, so these days I bring it up because, oh my gosh, these days, so that happened like 2 weeks ago. Ever since then, it's like 30 sprays. I'm like, okay. It's like, like a fifth of the bottle or something, but like, just gotta survive. And then I got sick. So like, I don't know. Oh, aluminum is the worst. But anyways, don't eat aluminum, guys. Ugh. Okay. The block is the way. Let's go back to that. So the block is the way, and how do we make that, functional, or how do we deal with this practically, right? How do we deal with practically making the obstacle the way? Okay. I mean, on an intuitive level, this is what I would say. To me, this is practical, but it may not be practical for you. But I think it should be, and you should practice it. I would go into my mind, and I would just look around, all around me, like we talked about earlier. Our spirits are in a greater environment, right? So we look around our environment, and we see the path that we're on, and a lot of times we'll be on a path. Sometimes we won't, And I'll go ahead and clarify that. So we always want to be on the marble hall, right? The rock of our Redeemer. And then at the same time, there is like a secondary spiritual environment that coexists with that at the same time. So you can be in two at the same time, basically. But the other one is your divine path. And it looks like a path, like the yellow brick road or whatever it is unique to you. So hopefully you are both on the rock of our Redeemer and kind of in like another dimension or whatever. You're solidly on your divine path. And you should be facing forward. You know, when you look at it, you should be like facing forward. Sometimes people are like backwards or like they're laying down or like they don't even know what they're doing. And so you would look in your mind at your path and see what block is there in front of you and like talk to it and ask it what it's doing and ask what it needs you to know, ask what it needs healed, and just really get to know it. What I find is that blocks will usually disappear if you just talk to them enough. So I just like talk to them like crazy time. I don't know. So you just want to talk to your blocks. And so you can do that without all the visualization as well. You know, sit down and look at your life and write it down on a piece of paper that you have, your physical, like, how's your physical body? You know, how's your mental health? How is your thoughts? You know, your emotions, your money, your relationships, you know, these different aspects of your life. And what are the big blocks that you have in those parts of your life? You know, so we talked about some blocks earlier in this class, blocks about, every time we get comfortable somewhere, we move, you know, so what is the block? And so what I like to do, and that's the thing, a lot of times we'll look at our blocks and be like, I don't even know what the block is. Like, I can see the effects of the block, but like, what is this block, right? And I think that's really a big thing that hangs up a lot of us, you know? And so, so write down the effect of the block, you know? Start with what you know. Just always start with what you know. And then, and then start to ask questions. You can write down your questions and then skip a line and just like write down anything that comes into your mind. So you can ask right away, like, what is the nature of this block? Or like, what does this block want me to know? Or you can ask other stuff. What does this block look like? How long have I had this block? Did I get this before I was born? Did I get this when I was 10? Does this involve other people? Are other people trying to block me? Is this a block I put in myself? Is this a block from God that I need to turn to Him to work through? You know, is this a message for me? And so that is one thing that I do a lot with my intuitive work is, I don't know everything. And a lot of times answers don't come to me. I say a lot of times, I would say in every single session I ever do, there are times where I don't get answers that I need. Just like, they don't just come to my brain. And so I have to ask questions. And I have to say, okay, does this situation involve, money, family, parenting, school, education, a job? And I just go through literally any noun that I can think of. And I usually go through like 5 or 6 wrong ones and then I get a right one. And so really just being open to asking a lot of like ridiculous questions and throwing a lot of possibilities out there and trusting that when you get the right one, you can see that angel giving you the thumbs up, or like Francie was saying, the thermometer rises, or the geese come together, or you just feel that good feeling like, yes, that's it. That's the one. So practicing that, asking questions, and being really okay with not knowing the answer. Because nobody has all the answers, like I don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers except for God, and our job is just to listen. Our job is just to listen and ask really good questions. And I think that was obviously like Joseph Smith's great strength, was that he asked a lot of questions and he was really open to answers, even answers he didn't understand. And even the answers he didn't understand, he would still write them down. And that's how we have the Doctrine and Covenants, right? He would write out his prayers and skip a line and get the answers that he didn't understand all the time. But he'd just say, okay, that's the answer I got, so let's run with it. So that is what I would say about blocks, is ask really good questions, ask them in writing. Write down what comes into your mind. If nothing comes into your mind, start asking all the weird questions. Does this block have to do with my marriage? Does it have to do with my house, my school? Does it have to do with an item that I own? Does it have to do with, something that I learned about at school? Like, you just have to ask questions, and you'll find as you do this that you will start getting better at it. Practice makes perfect. As you start asking these, kind of random or off the wall questions, you'll start learning to ask the right questions. And so when I first started doing my work, sometimes I would have to go through a lot of questions to find answers. And normally now I can usually get it in like 3 or 4 different questions. If it doesn't come right away, I can kind of feel it taking shape in my mind, and I can know like the area to ask questions about, if that makes sense. Because there's an infinite number of things. I mean, like, if you really have to start from scratch, animal, vegetable, mineral, right? Or like, what are these basic questions we can ask? Noun, verb, sometimes I have to, with DPR work, pre-earth life was a lot more abstract than this like physical realm. And so figuring out classes, like the kinds of classes that spirits would take before they were born. I mean, you just have to be open to anything. I always say, is this a class about a noun or a verb? Like, is this a class about an adjective or an adverb? Like, what is it? Give me a hint, And then, sometimes I have to ask when things are really complicated. I'll say, like, is this on a list on the internet? Like, how could I find this list? If I Google up lists of adjectives, will the adjective I need be on that list? Like, where on the list will it be? Like, and I will just like go through. But you just have to ask a bunch of questions and be creative about your answers. Intuition and imagination go together hand in hand. How good is your imagination? Do you need to go read a fantasy book or something? Like, wake up your imagination, because that is your power. Go ahead and tonight, if you want to, go into the Doctrine and Covenants and look up imagination, and you will find how imagination is a gift. And you'll find a very beautiful scripture about a man who is given the gift of imagination, that he would be able to rise up in the imagination of his thoughts as on the wings of eagles and be a tool to help heal the people around him. So this is a powerful gift. Okay. Well, I would keep going, but my throat. So if anybody has something very urgent, this is your last chance. Urgent question. If you have it, ask it now, or else we will call it a night. Okay, we might call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. It was so fun to hang out with you. Yes. I'm so glad that we did this. So here's your homework, guys. Well, I gave you a bunch of homework that I don't remember, but some of it was to proactively look up the things, like sit down with God, sit down with yourself, ask about the things that you don't want to face. Proactively facing them is what is going to help your life get out of the patterns you're in. Okay, being willing to go through the pain within your own self rather than having it be brought to you externally, okay? We're going to go through the pain internally so we can skip out on the big external drama, okay? So go and start facing your cave. Start digging out all the stuff in that closet and facing the dark stuff that you don't want to look at. Turn off the TV, look at your dark stuff. For Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, the next 3 weeks, that is like the potent time for excellent, excellent healing work. Okay. Other homework, practice your intuition, do some yoga, do some meditation. Think about the ways that you can be transformative in your communication and how you communicate with yourself and with others during this 3 weeks. And report back to me if you want. I want to hear how it goes for you. Okay, that's it. Have a good night, guys. You're the best.